Remembering Apollo 7's Walter Cunningham, Skykraft Launches, a coronal mass ejection recorded, 2 lunar mission successes, and we peer behind Sharpless 54.
From Trekzone's virtual studio to the world, with early access and behind the scenes for members, this is Trekzone's Talkin' Science.
This is the podcast catching you up on what you need to know in the world of science and space. He was part of the first crewed Apollo mission after a career in the Marine Corps and time at a private company. Former astronaut Walter Cunningham died early Tuesday morning in Houston. He was 90 years old. Cunningham was selected as an astronaut in 1963 as part of NASA's third astronaut class, and on October 11, 1968, Cunningham piloted the 11-day flight of Apollo 7 along with Walter Schirra Jr. and Don Easel. He tested maneuvers necessary for docking and lunar orbit rendezvous using the third stage of their Saturn IB launch vehicle. The crew successfully completed 8 tests, igniting the service module engine, measuring the accuracy of performance of all spacecraft systems, and providing the first live television transmission of onboard crew activities. The 263-hour, 4.5 million mile flight splashed down October 22 in the Atlantic Ocean. Cunningham retired from NASA in 1971 and went on to lead multiple technical and financial organisations. He served in senior leadership roles with Century Development Corps, Hydrotech Development Company and 3D International. Cunningham was also a long-time investor and entrepreneur, organising small businesses and private investment firms. His numerous awards include the NASA Exceptional Service Medal and NASA's Distinguished Service Medal. For his service, he was inducted into the Astronaut Hall of Fame, International Space Hall of Fame, Iowa Aviation Hall of Fame, San Diego Air and Space Museum Hall of Fame, and Houston's Hall of Fame. Cunningham and the Apollo 7 crew also earned an Emmy in the form of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Special Trustee Award. Skykraft, an Aussie space startup, has reached orbit after hitching a ride on a SpaceX Falcon 9 earlier this week. The 5 satellites lifted off from Cape Canaveral at 1:56 a.m. on the 4th of January, and they're leading a further 200 plus satellites, which are set to orbit over the next 2 years and aim to make global air travel smoother and more efficient. The satellites will form a constellation to deliver Skykraft's global air traffic management service. This space-based service will track aircraft and address gaps in surveillance and communications over remote areas. Dr. Michael Frater, CEO of Skykraft, said, "We rely on air traffic control to avoid mid-air collisions, even in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. With Skykraft's service, air traffic controllers will be able to see the aircraft at all times and talk directly with the pilot anywhere in the world." ATM relies on communications, surveillance and navigation services. Currently, ground-based infrastructure is limited to approximately 400 kilometres from land, which makes it difficult to accurately track aircraft and ensure their safety over oceanic and remote areas. Multiple sun-observing spacecraft have tracked a giant cloud of magnetised plasma exploding from a sunspot on the far side of the Sun, commonly called a coronal mass ejection. The resulting solar flare was not directed at Earth, but experts warn that the sunspot that produced them will soon be facing Earth as the Sun rotates. Sunspots are darker regions in the Sun's lower atmosphere that are cooler than the rest of the Sun's disk and feature dense and convoluted magnetic field lines. When these magnetic field lines break, the sunspots release solar flares in the form of bright flashes of light and coronal mass ejections. These ejections travel at the speed of light, so can reach Earth within 8 minutes. Meanwhile, plasma from December 30's CME has reached Earth, triggering a minor geomagnetic storm that could make auroras visible a bit further away from their usual location around the poles. South Korea's first lunar mission has beamed back images of home from its position in low lunar orbit. The Korea Pathfinder Lunar Orbiter, or Danuri, launched atop a Falcon 9 in early August and arrived in lunar orbit about 4 months later. This puts South Korea in the league of India, China, Japan, Russia, and the United States in successfully reaching lunar orbit. The 678-kilo KPLO completed a series of burns during mid and late December, with the spacecraft entering its planned orbit with an average altitude of 60 miles above the lunar surface on December 26, according to a statement released by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. Now undergoing commissioning before starting its official science mission, Danuri is scheduled to last about a year. Japanese startup iSpace has a lunar lander on the way after a second successful deep space maneuver overnight. The Hakuto R lunar lander aims to be the first private mission to soft land on the moon, scheduled for this coming April, after which it'll deploy a small rover called Rashid for the United Arab Emirates. That would be a huge milestone, the first ever successful soft lunar touchdown by a private lander. Beershot, a couple of years ago from Israel, unfortunately crash landed. This Mission 1 is a test flight designed to hit a set of 10 performance milestones between launch and landing. iSpace says that each of these milestones has been chosen to validate the performance of its technology and enable any changes ahead of future missions. The next 2 iSpace lunar flights are scheduled to launch in 2024 and 2025. An infrared view of a stellar nursery has revealed stars usually hidden by the thick clouds of gas and dust that act as the building blocks of infant stars. In this image of Sharpless 54, the orange glowing orb is punctuated by the bright stars. What we're seeing is around 6,000 light years from Earth in the constellation Serpens, and many of these stars would be hidden in visible light by the vast clouds of gas and dust from which the stars are born. The Visible and Infrared Survey Telescope for Astronomy, or VISTA, based at European Southern Observatory's Paranel Observatory in Chile, captured the image with its 67 million pixel camera over multiple years. And lastly this week, after its return trip to the moon and back, the Orion spacecraft for the Artemis 1 mission arrived at NASA's Kennedy Center just a few days before the New Year bells tolled. And that's after it splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on December 11. Technicians now get to work removing the payloads and downloading the data to analyse the flight in greater detail. Over the coming weeks and months, we'll hear about the data collected by Snoopy, the Zero Gravity Indicator, Orion's Heat Shield, and various other telemetry recorders. The 2023 season of Talkin' Science has begun, and I'm aiming to take you deeper into the stories of the week with interviews with the newsmakers when they're not so busy making discoveries, learning new things, and celebrating the new year. Be on the lookout for more of that really, really soon. More Talkin' Science next week, in fact. I'm Matt Miller. I'll catch you in the comments.